so one of the things that I really noticed as well was, as well as having these kind of materials and learning about social change and about different possibilities, which should potentially be a thing to campaign for or to introduce into the education system, whether that's kind of formally or informally. I think also so one of the really big narratives that every single interviewee mentioned was that they thought had a really negative perception of protest and activism, and I think that any young person, probably anyone in the UK, will have mostly, unless you are an activist, there's a really negative perception of activism, and I think that's something that could be changed and worked on, because in order to have a sort of, not only have the hope for the kind of positive vision of the future, but to believe it can happen, is to believe that you have a part to play in it. And they often would see their part as quite an individual way, and really important way as well, like kind of with more individual lifestyle actions, which can be super important. But in terms of having a collective sense of possibility, or in terms of like collaboration, they often didn't see that as a possibility. But one way that they had found hope for the future was one of the things cropped up a few times was that through the pandemic, when people were kind of gathering together and collaborating to, pick up where things were going wrong, that gave them a really good sense of hope for the future, which I think is really interesting, because actually, like, not just learning about, but experiencing and being part of something, a social change, can be so important, and as well as that, enacting something different. Be like, if you have this positive vision of the future where, say, there's sustainable farming, then having the opportunity to go and work on a sustainable farm or something like that could be really important, like enacting these different ways of life.
And enacting them together as well is so important, definitely. Isn't it? Because when we're just trying to do things on our own, it just doesn't feel like it's going to make enough of a difference to, young people are very aware of the scale of the problem, of the scale of climate change, and then in research we've done with young people before, they've said, and then we're told to like use a paper straw instead of a plastic straw. That we know that's not going to make any difference. Like, the scale of the challenge is just not commensurate with the kind of actions that we're told to do as individuals. But when we're taking those actions with other people and doing them all together, we found that's been much more effective in helping young people to feel that sense of self-efficacy. Like, I can make a difference because I'm not doing it on my own, I'm doing it with other people. Definitely. And that sense of collective action is so much more powerful and gives us so much more hope. So that's really interesting that you found that, because it's very similar to what we found in our research as well when we worked with young people. Is they doing things on your own isn't as inspiring as coming together with others and seeing it in real life and feeling it and experiencing it, not just being told about it as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think it's kind of got this circular effect where if you kind of engage in these things, then you start to believe something better is possible, and then you start to imagine a sort of more positive future, and then that makes you feel more as possible, and it sort of goes round in a circle like that. And that was also noticeable when I spoke to these young people, that those people who had engaged more tended to be more positive than those who hadn't. So sometimes taking that first step and encouraging others to do the same can be all that's needed.
Yeah, and that's what the research says, isn't it? That actually the best way to, with so many young people experiencing eco-anxiety and feeling that, very strong concern and fear about the future, the best way to help them, because it's, it's not a pathological thing, it's a pretty sensible response to what's happening in the world, to be feeling like that. And the best way to overcome that is to feel like part of the solution, and to take action together with others, even better.